So if you're anything like me, you are a massive fan of defensive based builds, and I got the perfect build for you, my Corrupted Cry Warbringer build. This build is one of the more unique builds because it focuses on being fairly tanky, and when I say fairly tanky, extremely tanky, with cap block whenever we finish out the build, tons of HP, tons of strength, really good mobility, and just really hard to kill. The massive focus on this build is putting a ton of corrupted blood on enemies and just dealing a ton of damage to them while we're safely walking around with tons of block. It's a very strong build that I wouldn't be surprised if it get nerfed, just because how much defense this build has compared to others. I'm a massive fan of tanky builds. Let me show you how I build my Corrupted Warcry Warbringer. Alright, now that we're done with the intro, let's actually dive into the build and talk about it. And I have like two things I want to say. First off, this video will have a detailed breakdown down in the description, as well as the first like pinned comment from Mobilytics. I am partnered with Mobilytics, so if you want a more detailed guide on how to like do different things, it'll be down there. Second, I want to give a shout out to Scott Douche. I'll have him linked down in the description as well. He's a big inspiration behind this build. He does a build very similar. I highly recommend, if you want to see a in-game version of this build, go check him out. This is going to be more of my final like entry into in-game type builds, because I know a lot of you are starting to transition to mid-end game, but this is going to be the final one that I do like this. Go check out his video if you want to you know, see a more in-game version. I don't know if this build would be nerfed. I'm recording this on the 14th, probably going to release this on the 16th or something. GGG is swinging the nerf hammer, so don't be mad at me if it get nerfed, because it is very defensive and it's really strong, and I think it's one of the stronger builds right now overall. Anyway, with that out of the way, let's dive into the build. You didn't come here to hear me chatting. So let's go over the skill gems, because we got quite a few to go over in this build compared to my previous builds. For reference on our defenses, because I kind of want to go over this first, we have 60% armor, almost 33% block. We're going to be working on the block in the future. I think in the intro I said that once we get to end game, you'll see 100% cap block. We'll get that soon in the next video. But yeah, we have 60% armor, 33% block right now, 69% fire, nice, and then 66% lightning. These two seem to be the things that are the most prevalent, I guess. 40% cold and 10% chaos. Chaos is going to be the last thing that I max out, but we're pretty good right now on our resistances. We're going to fix that cold by probably tomorrow, and then we'll be in a good place. But you kind of want to aim for something like this as you're starting to transition to maybe like 9s or 10s. That's where this character is. He's doing like 9s and 10s right now. So make sure you you know, have good stuff like that. Ideally, life would be like 2,500. My life is a little low, but 2,300 is okay, I guess. It's acceptable. So first off, we're going to be using Seismic Cry. Seismic Cry is our bread and butter. This is going to be the thing that gives us a ton of bleed. It does some physical damage, and when you support it with Corrupting Cry, this is going to put a bleed on enemies. Corrupted blood, actually not bleed, corrupted blood, those are different things. And it's going to just stay on them, and the more you actually do the cry, as you can see here, this is going to go up to, I believe, 10 stacks at the max. It's going to start like ticking down their HP, and as long as you can like kind of apply it over the course of like a couple of seconds so you don't lose the buff, you can keep the 10 stack going. And as you can see, you're kind of mobile while you're doing it, so it's easy to like kind of do that on the move, which is actually part of the reason why it's super tanky. Anyway, we're supporting this with brutality, inspiration, and once you get your 5 link, we're gonna get swift affliction. Once you get your 6th link, if you are at that point, and I haven't made a video about it yet, you're gonna get devastation for devastate to break armor for future parts of this build. Anyway, this is entry level anyway, so it doesn't matter. Next, we're gonna be doing Ancestral Warrior. Yeah, Ancestral Warrior Totem. We're gonna support this with Earth Shatter. We're gonna use Upheaval, and then we're gonna get Ancestral Urgency. You can get other things here. I just like Urgency because, as you can see here, it comes out really quick, and I just like that. But yeah, there's other options you can put there, but just make sure you're using at least, at the very least, use Earth Shatter and Upheaval. Support it with other things if you want, but that's what I like. Next, we're going to be using Shield Charge. Shield Charge is going to be our major mobility around the map. We're going to use Stomping Grounds as well as Martial Tempo. And as you probably saw a second ago, oops, wrong one. This is going to make us run super fast around the map and get us out of sticky situations and stuff. And so it's super nice to have, and it's something I would highly recommend. Anyway, next we're going to be getting Leech Slam. Very similar to our mercenary build. We're going to be putting Holy Descent on this so that whenever we slam down, we can, you know, help with elements. It's going to put a consecrated ground. It's going to do some regeneration, help with elements. So it's really nice. Also, we're going to put Life Thief on this, and this is going to take a % of life when we land, which is going to be really nice to help us, you know, sustain whenever we're in sticky situations, because that's what Leap Slam is for. It's just to help us like jump out of situations. Next, for our auras, we're going to get Overwhelming Presence. We're going to support it with Cannibalism as well as Vitality. Overwhelming Presence is just going to make it easier for you to stun, and this actually stuns fairly good, so that's really important. Next, you're going to get Scavenge Plating. What you should do in this Ancestral War Chief, instead of having Ancestral Urgency, what you should have is the Armor Break stuff, and have that there, because that's going to be way more important than a Scavenge, well, than Ancestral. I just like the order, right? I just want it to come out faster, but I'm gonna fix the problem by tonight, so that's why I have it. I'm gonna go Ascend after this so I can like break it myself. But anyway, just saying, yeah, that's what you want. And then last, you're gonna get Time of Need. That's just gonna help you with elements. It's gonna help you with curses. It's gonna help you with healing. It's actually a really cool thing. As you can see there, I flashed a little bit. That's basically that going off, so it's really cool. Next, we're gonna get Infernal Cry. Infernal Cry is purely to give us rage. Whenever you hit enemies with this, it's going to give us rage. So when you're facing off against tough packs or monsters, what you're gonna do is basically build your Seismic Cry like I'm doing there, and get like 10 stacks on them, and then you're gonna just be pretty much pressing this and just keep your rage up, kind of like how you see me doing here. And you're just trying to keep your rage stacks up so you can get as much damage, and then you're just trying to keep your corrupted blood on them, and that's kind of what you're doing. So that's how it works. Last and finally, and you can actually do this fairly easy, is you're going to get Blasphemy support. Blasphemy as a buff, sorry, not support. And this is going to make it so that you can socket auras into your character. And when you have this, we're going to put Enfeeble on this, and what Enfeeble does is just going to make them weaker. They're going to deal less less damage. And this will go for uniques as well as just like pretty much everything else, like significantly a lot of less damage. And then we're going to support this with Heightened Curse. This is going to make it 25% more effective. And then we're going to get Magnitude Effect, because we want some AoE on this, because the AoE is not the greatest. So this is how we're going to have it set up. This is I think this is like one of the more important parts of the build. These two here, and then having I guess just having the cry itself, right? So yeah, just make sure you have it set up exactly like this. If you get a Source or Armor Break before your third Ascendancy, you know, do that, but this is how I have it set up now. In the next video, we're going to be updating this to be a little bit more complete. Now, typically I go to the passive tree, but I want to talk about the spirit thing, so we're going to go to equipment, because that's really important to talk about early. So the reason why I have 260 spirit is because I'm using a scepter, specifically an Omen scepter. For some reason, this type of scepter comes with insane amounts of spirit. I'm genuinely surprised if they don't nerf it in the future. I'm just saying. Anyway, it has a ton of spirit. I have 100 base. I bought one on the market for 100, one exalted, not 100, that had strength and intelligence. The reason why I'm looking for intelligence is because the scepter requires 117 int in order to use it, and I didn't want to put too much into my tree. I got intelligence on this ring, and I got intelligence here, and I put a little bit on my tree, which we'll see in a second. And this just makes it so I can actually wield it, so I can have the spirit for the aura, because the aura is that important. You really want to have it. Something like this should be very cheap. I could probably even exalt slam this. It's like super easy to get. So make sure you get a scepter. In your backhand, you're gonna just have your mace, your damage, your leveling mace, I guess. Maybe this is my leveling mace. So for the rest of the gear, let's just go over it. For our shields, we just got a shield with some life, some cold resistance, strength, armor. I just kind of prioritized armor, but our block chance is not the greatest until we get our like final shield. But yeah, that's what we're using, just something that has a good amount of armor as well as life on it, so that's important. For our helmet, once again, we have a ton of life and resistances. We want to cover our resistances because that's super important. We slotted in a storm rune for lightning resistance because, again, we're trying to cover it. Ideally, get some strength on your stuff, but that's what we're using. For our chest plate, resistances, life, armor, kind of the same things. I mean, generally speaking, most things are the same because you have to cover resistances in this game. It takes up so much of your build, which is kind of ridiculous. I don't want to go on a rant, but yeah, we're using armor. For our hands, we're using life as well as we should have resistance on it, but we put a slot in. We just needed the life and we needed the strength. It's the best gloves we have available to us. I could buy some, but you know, we're farming. Strength, life, just got a lot of it. Really important. For our boots, we have movement speed. That is #1 priority. Make sure you have movement speed. Got some resistances, strength, life, pretty much the same stuff. You want resistance, you want strength, you want life. Depending on the different piece of gear, like boots, you want move speed, you know, stuff like that. But you pretty much are always grabbing the same exact things on this type of build. For our belt, resistances, life, strength, pretty simple. For the other ring, resistances, we got some int on it to cover our int. You can do that on your tree. Ideally, we can get life here, but more resistances. And then for our belt, because this one's actually fairly important, we're using the Mirroring Gold Girdle Hide Belt. This one's a super easy belt to get. It's like one exalted you can get it for. It recovers your life recovery from your flask. It gives you strength. It gives you cold resistance. Kind of the same thing. And this will give you increased flash charges gain, but you'll get increased flash charges used. So this gives you pretty good sustain while you're mapping and stuff. And for bosses, I personally haven't ran out of charges in any of the boss fights I've done. So it feels like it's really good because you're going to need a lot of it to cover your HP, you know? So this is like really nice. For our charm, freeze charm is the only thing that seems to be useful if it decides to work. For our flask, this is the flask I prefer. I want one that has increased life recovery. I want the one that removes 15 from mana, since it doesn't actually remove mana because we don't have any. And then we get 45 increased charges, so we'll have 10 charges of this. And it's really hard for us to you know, run out of charges. The mana flask literally doesn't mean anything. The most important takeaways of this build: to make sure you get a omen specific scepter so you can have spirit to cover all your auras, stack strength, stack life, stack resistances, and just get everything else. That's really it. That's the core parts of the build. All right, let's go over the passive tree now. And like you guys tend to ask me, we're going to aim for strength as our primary stat. Get enough intelligence and dex to cover what you need, but for the most part, you're picking strength. Anyway, I'm gonna move down here, grab all this strength. We're gonna grab relentless, and we're gonna grab sturdy metal for the armor. This is super important. And then we're gonna get defender's resolve so that we can block. So it's really important here. We grab mass rejuvenation. I don't know if this is worth it, if I'm being honest. You could probably unspec out of this. Don't really need it. I think this is a waste of 5 points. So probably use these somewhere else, if I'm being honest with you guys, but I'm kind of using it right now, kind of testing it. Coming down here, we grabbed polished iron, and then we grabbed all the physical here, well, 2 of the physical here, and then we grabbed the block lay siege, because this is important as we continue to get more block, because we will. This will give us a lot of damage. This node right now is giving me 33% increased damage, and that's not bad considering this is giving me defense and damage. So this cluster area, 33% damage for one node is pretty good, and eventually this will get up to like plus 60% damage for one node, which is really valuable. Moving over here, we're gonna grab Blustering Yell. This is going to give us more area of effect. We're gonna grab beef because, you know, beef is good for strength. Moving down here, we're gonna grab this one. This is gonna give us more area of effect, which is kind of important, and then more damage on our work rise, which is actually important as well. We're gonna go up top first. Up here, we're gonna grab Prism Guard to give us the max resistance. You can go the cold way. I went the fire way because we're gonna be doing convert damage to fire in a second on some other parts of the tree. So it's important to go fire for me, but do whatever you want here. We're gonna get blood magic, and then up here we're gonna grab the battle fervor. This is gonna give us attack speed as well as increased physical damage. Grab the deafening cry. This is going to give us more damage depending on how many times we war cried recently. Recently it's like 4 seconds, I believe, in this game. Just double checking. Yeah, 4 seconds. And then we're going to get Grotto Roar. This is going to give us AoE and war cry speed to make sure the war cry come out much faster. As you can see there, it's actually relatively quick on which the war cry comes out. That's the purpose of that. Coming down here, we're going to grab brute strength. Super important because we want to we meet the requirements because we want to make sure that we get the extra damage based on our strength. By the time it's all said and done, we're probably going to get like 60% strength damage from this or more, but yeah, it's super important to grab this. We're gonna come down here, we're gonna grab this one as well as Ancestral Mending. You can take this one, Unity. I don't know. I feel like 4% wasn't that crazy because I'm only using totems. That's 8% for my totems. I feel like I could use 2 points elsewhere, but you know. Over here, grab Urgent Call. This is objectively one of the more important nodes on the entire tree. This gives you 2% life and mana when you use a war cry. That is super, super big and super, super important. Moving down here, we grabbed a lot of int, and we're passing our way towards grabbing these percent increase attributes. I'm contemplating anointing this one later, because it seems like you can anoint. So I could anoint this later and then save points, but we'll see how that goes, because this is only like plus number increases, not percent increases, you know. So we'll see how it goes. Anyway, that is the passive skill tree. I think I covered everything. Let's go over to the Ascendacy node. We're gonna go this way, grab Warcrawler Bellow, and then we're gonna get Great Wolf Howl. Alright, Exile, so it looks like my recording actually kind of cut out before I can do this, and I'm like coming back 3 hours later to give you the information on how to level. So yeah, not turning lights back on. Anyway, how do we level this? It's pretty simple. We're going to get Rolling Slam with Bone Shatter. We're going to be using Bone Shatter to proc off the stuns. We're going to get Shockwave Totem to help, Infernal Cry to empower our attacks, and then Perfect Strike when we can. We're going to build this heavily towards Ignite, because Ignite is going to carry us. Once we get to a point where we can get Earth Shatter, you're going to hard swap off all that nonsense. You're just going to use Earth Shatter and Infernal Cry until you get to Act 3, which you can just swap to the Corrupted Blood build once you ascend the second time. But the reason why we're using Earth Shatter is because it will create these spikes when you support it with Upheaval and Martial Tempo. Martial Tempo is going to give you attack speed, and when you activate Infernal Cry, you can see there, it blows up those spikes, and that does a ton of damage and will kill everything super easy. It's a nice build, but the problem is you need to make sure you have enough attack speed to get these spikes out as much as possible. Make sure you do the best way to do this is by getting attack speed on your tree, Martial Tempo like I said a second ago, and then on your tree when you're taking the Warcry stuff here, a lot of these Warcry nodes will have things that like enhances those type of play styles, and things that will give like speed and cooldown recovery. So when you respec out of it, it won't be that costly because you're just taking a few points off of areas you're already going to go anyway. So just keep that in mind while you're playing that, and you're just simply going to just play with a two-handed or one-handed mace, and you're just going to be just doing this and blowing things up. That's how you level. Anyway, that's going to be it for this one, boys. Let me know down in the comments what you think. I said in the beginning of the video, I think that I'm not really going to be doing any more of these like entry level videos. We're going to be moving on towards mid game and end game. So yeah, be prepared for that. Thank you guys so much for supporting the channel. Really appreciate all the subs in the last couple of days. I live stream every day on Twitch, just short of every day. I may take some days off, but yeah, love to have you guys. Thank you for watching, and yeah, I'll see you in the next video very soon, Exiles.